Welcome into Wager Talk TV. I am Drew Martin, joined by Brian Leonard and Jimmy Adams of WagerTalk.com as we are talking college football, Big Ten, Illinois, and Michigan. Brian, coming to you first. Low total of 42. We are seeing the Wolverines minus 18-point favorites. You liking anything in the Big House kicking us off on Saturday?
That's a lot of points in this low total game, I'll tell you. Illinois, just a couple of weeks ago, they were 7-1. They were talked about being a spoiler in this conference. And they go out and they lose at home to Michigan State and Purdue. So a lot of people are written off the Illini. But keep in mind, in those two losses, they had a net yardage advantage of 71. They were even on first downs. So even though they lost those games, I expect them to come out this game, and this will be their Super Bowl for them. Illinois played 3 road games this year. In those 3 road games, they've allowed 42 total points. They're 9-9 straight up on the road their last 18 games. And they're playing a Michigan team here who has played a very easy schedule, ranked 71st in the country, especially at home. You take a look at what the Wolverines have played at home. The only good team that they've played is Penn State. They have blowout wins over Colorado State, Hawaii, Connecticut, Maryland, Michigan State, and Nebraska. But this will be the second best team that they play at home this season. If you remember that Penn State game, if I'm not wrong on this, that was when Penn State's quarterback was hurt. So that was a totally different ball game after that. Michigan's got that, obviously, the big game coming up against Ohio State next week. And it's a situation for myself where I think Illinois is an afterthought. And 18 points, I'll take them here. As you mentioned, the total's at 42. They put up 14 points. We're in this game. So we'll go with that. We'll take Illinois plus the points in this contest.
All right, going with the dog here, the Illini. Jimmy, what are you thinking in the Big House on Saturday?
I agree a lot with what Brian said. I mean, wow, have things changed in a hurry for Brett Bielema and Illinois after losses to Purdue and Michigan State. But that being said, this is still an Illini team that ranks second in the country in EPA per play defensively. In fact, we have the number 1 and number 2 teams in the country overall in total defense. Doesn't exactly make me want to run and bet the over, especially with the state the Illini offense is in. Could be a look-ahead spot for Michigan as they have Ohio State on deck, like Brian mentioned. But this is a lot of points to be laying. I wouldn't be surprised if this game's a bit closer than many anticipate if you're looking to play the side. But I just can't do it given what we've seen out of Illinois the past 2 weeks. I don't expect either team to have much success scoring. The under is 10-2-1 in the last 13 versus a team with a winning record for Illinois. Going to be a low-scoring affair. Points hard to come by. Give me the under in this one, Drew.
He's Jimmy Adams. We heard from Brian Leonard as well. Check them both out at WagerTalk.com. Guys, as we're talking here, the total 42 minus 18. That's Michigan favored. Good place to check that out is the Wager Talk live odds screen. It's the best free live odds in the industry. Check it out, the live odds tab right up there in the top right, wagertalk.com. Welcome into Wager Talk TV. I am Drew Martin, joined by Jimmy Adams and Brian Leonard of WagerTalk.com. We are breaking down college football, SEC West battle here, Jimmy. Ole Miss and Arkansas, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 local time, I believe, 61 being the total. We're seeing Ole Miss, the Rebels, 2.5-point road favorites. Are you liking anything in this SEC matchup, Jimmy?
Tricky handicap here, Drew. So I thought last week was the spot for Arkansas catching LSU and a potential letdown. Obviously, no KJ Jefferson last week. So Coach Sam Pittman comes out and says he anticipates Jefferson's going to play, but it depends on how he practices. And the Razorbacks offense is obviously night and day different with him on the field. But that being said, he's still hurt whether he plays or not. That shoulder's really bugging him. So I'm not going to rush to the window to bet Arkansas. Then you have Ole Miss. They're coming off a disheartening loss to Alabama. So how do they respond? Well, the Rebels, they're still 8-2 on the year. They've had great success rushing the football, averaging 259.8 yards per game on the ground. They can attack you in a variety of ways, but running the football has really been their calling card. The defense has been solid. The problem is that they just don't force a lot of turnovers. But then again, neither does Arkansas really. So if I have to play this game, I expect a bounce back from the Rebels. That's the way I'll be playing. If I am playing, I am laying in this one.
Jimmy Adams. All right. Brian Leonard, coming to you next. I'm with Jimmy in the sense, like, when you look at this line, I almost feel like it's short. Ole Miss is the kind of the sexier side, but Arkansas being at home, catching points, I don't know. They're a tough squad. What do you like in Ole Miss and Arkansas?
Yeah, they are a tough squad, and if we can get the quarterback back, I'll be on Arkansas on this one. That's something we'll need to be confirmed before I place a bet on it. But keep in mind, they got a little bit of a revenge. Last year, they lost in a shootout, 52-51. And Jimmy talked about the Rebel schedule here. This is a bad scheduling spot, if you ask me, for Mississippi. They had a week off so they could prepare for Alabama. They caught Alabama on one of their weaker situations that they've had in, a decade or so. This Alabama team isn't nearly as good as they've been in the past. And they had them on the ropes last week, and they let them off, and they lost that game 30-24 in a really tight game. They were in that game all week long, and now they got Mississippi State on deck, the crosstown rival in Mississippi. So I think it's a tough spot here going against Arkansas. Arkansas is off a couple losses. They lost to Liberty, and they lost to LSU, two very good football teams. And they travel to Missouri next week, and Missouri's one of those teams that's been up and down all season long. But if you take a look at the strength of schedule, the Rebels have been respectable at 53rd ranked. Well, Arkansas is 26th. They played the tougher schedule. And based on the scheduling situation, along with the revenge and Mississippi in that sandwich situation for this week, I kind of like Arkansas in here, but I really want that quarterback to play.
Great points, Brian. Plus the fact that Egg Bowl, that's a Thursday night game, so they got a short week on deck looking ahead towards Mississippi State. Great points from Brian Leonard and Jimmy Adams. I'm Drew Martin. Check us out, wagertalk.com. Guys, a good day to do so is Tuesdays, $2 Tuesdays. Top handicappers, top play, discounted to just $2. Check it out, wagertalk.com. Welcome into Wager Talk TV, college football breakdowns from a betting perspective, Pac-12 action here. We are talking USC, the Trojans, at the UCLA Bruins. Brian Leonard, Jimmy Adams, I am Drew Martin. Brian, coming to you first, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific kick in this one. We are seeing USC minus 2.5 point road favorites, 75.5 being the total. Are you liking anything in the Rose Bowl on Saturday night?
I don't have much on this, just a slight opinion, but I will say, if you take a look at what USC has done this year, they're 9-1 on the season. The only loss being that 43-42 loss to Utah on the road. But if you break down what the Trojans have done, they've only outgained 3 opponents this year by more than 100 yards. You wouldn't expect that for a team with a 9-1 record. The reason they've done so well, plus 17 in the turnover margin. That is basically how they have won this year. The reason why I have a slight lean here with UCLA is UCLA is only plus 2 in turnover margin, and they run the football. They've just been terrific on the ground as of late. On the season, averaging 6.2 yards per carry. The last 4 games, 5.9, 9.6, 7.2, and 6.2. You don't turn the ball over much when you run the football, and that's the big advantage UCLA has here. I think USC is somewhat of a fraud in that regard because of the big turnover advantage. And with UCLA running the football, I think it'll be tougher for USC to get that advantage in turnovers. And USC's actually never lost a turnover battle in any game this season. I think UCLA wins this game straight up.
I agree with you, Brian. Jimmy, interested in your opinion here. Brian brought up some great points towards the Bruins. Add on here, Charbonnet, 725 yards in his last 4 games. I know the kind of the masses aren't into kind of giving the Conference of Champions too much for the Heisman, but I feel like they do have 2 losses, although maybe get a little bit more, consideration here, talking about the UCLA offensive production overall, really. And I think UCLA is a home dog bargain. I think they win outright too. What are you liking, USC and UCLA?
So I actually have a play on the side on this game for the clients. So I'm going to go ahead and look at the total. We saw this number come crashing down off the opener. And I think it's time. I'm going to come back in on the other way and play this one on the over. Look, USC ranks 7th in the nation in total offense, 7.2 yards per play, about 500 yards per game. You look at their last 4 games, they put up over 40 points in each of them. One of those came against Utah, who has the 22nd ranked. They're ranked 22nd in total defense. So they've proven they can put up points really against anyone. As far as USC's defense, this is a team that gave up 35 points to Cal a few weeks back. Big question marks for me. And then you look at the UCLA side, very similar offensive numbers. They enter 5th in total offense, and they're putting up 504 yards per game. The over's gone 4-0 against the spread in the last 4 meetings between these two teams, and that's the way I'll be leaning here for free play status. Give me the over.
He's Jimmy Adams. We heard from Brian Leonard as well. Check them both out, wagertalk.com. Guys, a good day to do so is Mondays. It's $9 Mondays. All plays from all handicappers discounted to just $9. Check it out, wagertalk.com.